Hello again. I'm Dr. Sudhir Bisht. I'm a professor of management at Delhi Technical Campus or DTC in Noida, and I'm teaching business marketing to the fourth semester students of my college DTC. In today's lecture, I will cover market segmentation in B2B business, B2B business or business marketing. I will also cover the importance of B2B segmentation. Briefly, I will revisit the concept of segmentation, targeting, and positioning like we did in the case of consumer marketing last year. Also, I will discuss how the B2B segmentation differs from the consumer marketing segmentation. How the buyers or the buying organization, how does it use segmentation for buying decision? And how the knowledge of segmentation done by the buyer organization, how this knowledge can help the seller organization. It is very important. Unless we know is how the buyer perceives various products which are for resale or which are for industrial consumption, we cannot we cannot actually have a marketing program to effectively sell our products. We will also cover 5 or 6 ways of segmenting B2B marketing. And if time permits, today we will cover e-commerce in B2B marketing, and we will also cover reverse auctions. What are reverse auctions? Normally in an auction there is one seller and there are many bidders. But reverse auction, okay, I will explain that today. I hope you will enjoy today's lecture. Let's proceed. Just a quick recap of what was STP concept in marketing management. STP, or S stands for segmentation, T starts for targeting, and P starts for positioning, product positioning or service positioning. As we know that a market for a product may be very large. Let's take the case of biscuits. The market for biscuits in India is very large, and there are biscuits which are of a very low price point, let us say 5 rupee for a pack, for a small pack of a Parle G biscuit. Then there are biscuits which are, depending upon what the biscuit is made up of, there are different kinds of biscuits. There could be chocolate biscuits, there could be, recently a new biscuit pack has been launched which is called potatoes, and it challenges you to categorize that product, whether you will categorize that product into a potato chip or a biscuit. Potatoes, this is the name of the biscuit. So there are many kinds of biscuits. So in market segmentation, what we do is we identify the basis for segmentation. How do we want to segment the market? Do we want to segment the market based upon demographics, based upon psychographics, based upon consumption pattern, usage pattern? So first of all you have to identify the basis for segmentation, and then you have to determine the important characteristic of each segment. That is segmentation, marketing segmentation. After marketing segmentation comes market targeting. In market targeting, one evaluates the potential and I should say commercial attractiveness of each segment. And after having done this process of evaluation, a marketer or a company, it selects one or more segment which is commercially attractive to the company. Okay, so if I'm a new biscuit manufacturer, biscuit marketer, I may feel that the only category which will attract me is the chocolate biscuit category, which is premium priced, because that is where the volume is growing year on year, and it's an aspirational category, and the margins are very high, margins are very good, and competition is less. So this is called market targeting. After market targeting comes the process of product positioning. What do you do in positioning? You develop a detailed product positioning for the selected segment. If I have selected one segment, I have, let's say, the chocolate biscuit segment. So I will do a detailed product positioning. What is positioning? Positioning, I may have an idea of a brand, of my own brand, but does it resonate with the idea of my brand? which is there in the mind of a customer, or does the customer have any idea of my brand in his mind, of my brand in his mind? I may think that my brand is very royal brand, it's a very attractive brand, and it's a premium brand. Customer may not have heard of my brand, and even if he has heard, he may think that I'm okay, one of the run of the mill brands. So I have to work very hard to develop a positioning in the mind of my target segment, in the mind of my target customer. How do we develop that? By we have to develop the marketing mix for each selected segment. Because what is the perception in the mind of a customer? It will depend upon my efforts also. And what are my efforts? My efforts are in product. My efforts are in pricing. My efforts can get reflected in positioning. For example, if I may choose to sell my brand of biscuit only through selected outlets. Okay. And of course promotion. So I have to develop a marketing mix for the selected segment. So this in short is the concept of STP. How is how is the buying process or the selling process or the marketing process different in consumer products and in industrial products or in B2B products? We will come to it in the next slides. But through this slide, I just wanted to revisit the concept of market segmentation, market targeting, and product positioning. So, what is the importance of B2B segmentation? It's a basic question. Somebody has said that if there is one basic rule in marketing, it is to sell different people differently. You can't use the same method to sell your product to two people differently because people's needs are different and they may view your product from the prism of their needs or their wants or their demands. Okay, so segmentation takes up a even more important role when it comes to B2B marketing. Market segmentation in B2B marketing, it seems a bit more complex than B2C one, but the benefits are immense. With the right segmentation strategy in place, one can understand one's target group better and one can cater to that specific requirement in a very efficient manner. The importance of B2B market, the importance of segmentation and targeting and positioning, it can be gauged from the fact that I was going through some of the websites and it says that a product like Canon, it was able to tap into newer market and grab up to 40% market share just because of right segmentation strategy. So you're going into a new market and you have the correct segmentation strategy, and that has helped you to gain in a very quick time 40% market share. This is the study published in one of the websites which I will mention the source in my lecture. So see, this is the importance. Then there is a very big insurance company called MetLife has used B2B segmentation. MetLife is into B2C, B2B also. When it is selling the insurance for the to the large corporations or to their large broking house or agents, it was able to save annually $800 million in customer acquisition costs just because it did its process of segmentation rightly. Think of a new tractor which wants to enter into the Indian market. I'm just thinking of a case. The land holdings are getting smaller and smaller. So less than 2 hectare. There are most farmers less than 2 hectare. So if somebody is able to provide to that farmer maybe a lightweight tractor, okay, which can also double up as a means of transportation, but the horsepower is low, and target only those markets where the land is highly arable, where the horsepower of a tractor need not be very high. And if one is able to introduce such a tractor at a price which is extremely attractive, and one is able to tie up an installment scheme for the farmers. So this is about segmentation. So let's convert this example to a B2B example. If there is a B2B wholesale company which is intending to supply groceries to small shopkeepers, and if it is able to segment that which cities it should target, because in tier 1 cities or in the metro cities, every manufacturer is reaching, every marketer is reaching the smallest of the shops directly or through the distribution channel. It is in smaller tier 2, tier 3 cities that or the marketers are not reaching themselves. The retailers, the small shopkeepers are either going to the wholesale market themselves, or wholesalers are reaching them. Then the price differential, the price advantage to the retailer is less compared to the retailer who operates in a larger town. So if there is a e-commerce company which is into B2B, and if chooses the segment of small retailers in small towns, in tier 3 towns, so this kind of a segmentation can help uh, the new e-commerce company into B2B to to get a critical mass of business. Of course, I'm just trying to give some kind of a situation. But segmentation, companies have used segmentation uh, very well. The company which comes to my mind immediately is, if you see ExxonMobil, it had selected, it segmented the lubricant market, especially when after the merger in India, it segmented the Indian lubricant market into markets which were attractive for the seller in terms of profit margins. And it said it will concentrate only on that market where the competition is less and the margins are high. So, mobile number one, uh, in volume terms it may be selling less as compared to a normal engine oil, but the kind of returns it gives to all, to the company, to the reseller, even to the customer who uses that, because the drain period of mobile number is very high, 5 to 6 times the drain period of an normal engine oil. So this is right segmentation. So for that, the for Exxon Mobil went to it, it targeted only workshops of uh, high class workshops, sophisticated workshops. So this is the importance of B2B segmentation. So in this illustration, I have tried to capture how the involvement or how the segmentation of B2B differs from B2C segmentation. If we take target market in B2C, in B2C the involvement of the consumer is not so high. It's not so high because except in case of product which are highly priced, or specialty products, or complex products. Uh, the involvement is not so much there. One doesn't spend so much time. So target market uh, does not spend so much time. Whereas in case of B2B, mostly high involvement is seen. High involvement is seen mostly. Yeah. So if you see target market of B2B, target market of B2B is very small as compared to the target market of B2C. Number, I'm talking of the number. If you see the purchaser in B2B, there are multiple layers of people who are involved in the purchasing decision. Whereas in B2C, normally a single person, or or two members of the family, they will decide. The If you see the buying process, the B2B buying process, uh, it has again B2B buying process has multiple steps of of procurement. There could be tendering, there could be evaluation of the bids, there could be negotiation. In case of B2C, it is fairly simple. There is one single step. People are going to the shop and buying it, or ordering something on the website. There are not many steps per se. So the sales cycle in B2C is shorter. Procurement, consumption, repurchase. Procurement, consumption, repurchase. In B2B, it will be higher. First of all, the consumption time will be higher, right? And evaluation will be there. And since more number of people are involved in the decision making, sales cycle is higher. Even to gain acceptability for a new seller, it may take a lot of hard works. What are the sales drivers of B2C? The sales drivers of B2C are the consumer must recognize that a particular product or service, it satisfies his needs or demands or wants, and then he will go for repetition, he will go for repeated purchases. In case of B2B relationship between buyer and seller is very important, and detailed information is needed by the buyer. So this is, and that is why the segmentations are different between B2B and B2C. So if I'm asked to list four ways in which the B2B segmentation differs from B2C segmentation, is that the buying behavior is very complex in B2B. B2B purchases are usually high involvement, and customers are looking for personalized solution. Personalized means which is specific to the corporation which is buying. In B2B, there are no impulse purchases. It's not like you have a craving to have something sweet and you go across the street to the mom and pop store and buy a chocolate. No, no, no. There are no impulse purchases in B2B segmentation. Third is there are more than one decision maker. In fact, must be more than two, three, four decision makers. Sometimes there is a committee of decision maker. And finally, the business cycle is considerably longer, because and more number of steps are involved, and the business cycle is considerably longer. So we will now consider how corporations or buying houses, how they segment what they want to purchase in terms of complexity and in terms of involvement. How do the buying companies, how do they segment their purchases? How do they split whatever they purchase into various purchase categories? So from the buyer's perspective, I want to explain to you. So the buyers, they classify purchases into categories based upon number one, procurement complexity. Procurement complexity. How complex is the process to procure this or that kind of a thing? Some of the items, their procurement process could be absolutely simple, while in some other cases it could be very complex. Let's take the example, if you're putting up a factory and you have to buy power, and you're putting up a factory in, let us say, in Gurgaon, in Haryana. There is no decision which is needed in this case, because you will buy power from the Haryana Electricity Board or the whatever is the distribution company in Gurgaon. There is no choice. You don't have a choice actually. But if you have to buy a generator, and then it's a complex thing. Generator is a standby power. What should be the capacity? What should be the brand? And generator is a capital item, so you need to take advance approval. It must be included in the capital budget. So this is what I mean by procurement complexity. So one is, it is based upon procurement complexity, and second is how this decision will impact your corporate revenue or business risk. Let me again explain this in the context of power. You need to run power, which is you need to run your factory 24/7. So you need very strong backup supply. Okay, so you have alternatives. You can have alternative sources of energy. For example, you may install a solar equipment, and that will store into the batteries, and you will use the battery power in case of a power breakdown. In case of a power breakdown, you will use this. But you have to, that means you will not have a generator. This is a risky proposition. This is a risky proposition. I recall when I was in Nigeria and I was working for a company which was number two player in the field of mobile telephony or GSM. The chairman had taken a decision that all the BTS stations will have two generators, and he did not go for a power connection. He did not go for a power because power supply was very epileptic. There was only 4 or 5 hours of power supply. He says, uh, and the power supplies, the load was sometimes good, the load was sometimes very poor. So he says, what is the use of having the government power supply of the electricity board when it is only for 3 to 4 hours in a day? I'm talking of around 12 years ago, 14 years ago. And he said we must have two generators in every BTS site. BTS site is a base transceiver system. It's a it's a site for a telecom company, for a telecom infrastructure, because the risk of running out of power was very high. It would have BTS outage. That means the people living around that tower will not get any signals, and which will have an impact on your image, which will have an impact on your corporate revenue. So they classify, the buying companies, they classify uh, purchases into two categories based upon procurement complexity, and number two, how it will impact the corporate revenue and the business risk. After that, they align the procurement process with limited importance of purchase category. Okay. So if the purchase category is very important for the performance of the company, then the procurement approach is entirely different. Strategic priorities are attached to high impact purchases. Routine things like, suppose an organization wants to go for printing of company letterheads or stationery. This is a low complexity job. Okay, but if you want to install a new IT software, or if you want to change the critical component of a high value machine, then it is high complexity job. It is a very high complexity job. Think of a LPG bottling plant. The most important things in LPG bottling plants are pumps, air compressors, the carousel is the machine which keeps on rotating, and the cylinder keeps on, empty cylinders keep getting parked at one station, and the carousel gun goes down and LPG is filled. Like in India, we have 14.2 kg in every LPG cylinder. These are very critical components. What about the conveyor belt? The conveyor belt, it's very critical. You don't want a conveyor belt which fails again and again and again, or there is a testing equipment. These are very critical components. So because they impact the performance, the production performance immediately. For low impact purchases, for example, let us again take the case of a LPG bottling plant. Uh, if if the plant wants to buy dry chemical powder for refilling their fire extinguishers, this is something which is not a very complex job. It's not tough to do that, because DCP powder, it's a standardized powder. There are many vendors, so you just go to a reliable vendor and give him that order, and he will come and fill it. But think of installing a hydrant system or a sprinkler system in the plant, which costs several lakhs of rupees, and that is your that is your biggest safeguard or your biggest it's your biggest firefighting equipment in case of a fire. So you will have to look at it from an entirely different perspective. Okay, similarly, let us take the case of uh, an advertising service. So an advertising service can have tremendous risk implications relative to the customer perception of value. So if there is a service company, let us say Ola or Uber, they want to hire the services, engage the services of an advertising company. See, it's a service industry and advertising is the key. Advertising is that arm of promotion which will ensure that the positioning of your services in the mind of customers are the same which you want to project. So selection of an advertising company, it becomes a tremendous risk implication job as compared to, let us say, Ola or Uber. Uh, they want to order or they want to finalize a contractor who will provide food service or lunch to the staff. Not that lunch is uh, not important, it is important, but it is not, it does not impact your revenue, it does not impact the very image of your company so much. Okay, so you can, the job of shortlisting an advertising agency which will be responsible for end to end or 360-degree promotion of Ola or Uber. I am taking these two companies because they are high class value services uh, in India today. So it will be, this job will be interested to somebody from the senior management, maybe a team will see, they will ask the company to, they will check their credentials, they will see, they will, how their advertisements for other companies, how they have impacted the image of the clients, something like that. For example, let's take the case of a car company. Okay, if a car company, if it wants to decide on who will supply steering wheels. Okay, this is a very critical decision for the company. This is a very critical decision for the company. But if the Ford Motor Company, their factory wants to decide who will be in charge for supplying the bus services from the metro station till the factory, not so important. Okay, who will be this? Who will supply the chips to the new car or to the car company? So suppose it's a Taiwanese vendor, so perhaps the team from India will go to Taiwan and visit them. But some other non-important, not so important thing, if you want to order, you will not do so much of hard work. You will not go up and down, and you will not be rolling up your sleeves to check. So this is how purchasing managers, they do segmentation. How can the sellers use the knowledge of segmentation done by the buyer? We discussed how do buyers segment their purchases. So business marketers, business sellers should assess where their offerings are positioned in the portfolio of purchase of a particular organization. This will vary from company to company, from industry to industry. Okay, the revenue and the profit potential for a business seller will be greatest if what he is selling what he is selling is positioned as high revenue impact and high customer value impact in the mind of the buyer. So just to take the example, let us say automobile industry. In automobile industry, what are high revenue impact and high customer value impact, high revenue impact and high customer value impact for a buying organization. So electronic braking system, for example, navigation systems, especially in the new cars, navigation systems, many times audio systems, you know, or the engine, the critical components in the engine. So they fit into the category which represents around 25% of the passenger vehicles cost. So this is strategic for the buyer. So the seller of these products will have to make a different kind of an offering to them. Okay, here the seller can contribute significantly, and the seller can also enjoy a profit margin if he is able to become the key component supplier, if he becomes a central component in the customer's supply chain, and if he is able to engage into a long-term relationship with the customer. In fact, sometimes the seller, he becomes a kind of a extension of the buying organization. There is so much uh, affinity, there is so much of closeness. Similarly, there may be some, you may be selling the same product to different organizations, and it could be they could perceive your product differently. Let me again give you the example of West Africa, where I was approached by somebody from Kirloskar, and we had around 5,000 BTS sites, and each site would use two generators. So, what was the potential for a, a generator company? They saw a potential of 5,000 sites. Let us say at 5,000 sites, two generators, 10,000 generators was the potential he saw in my company. I was the buyer and seller. But they also sell generators to open, they also sell it to dealers, to the wholesalers who buy generators, and then they sell it to small shops across that country. But once I was talking to him, he would come, and the guy would come and meet me, every week. He will try to persuade me, make a presentation. So I asked him, why don't you go and make some efforts in the open market? You sell your generators through retailers. So he said, sir, uh, when I go to the retailer, it is like taking one single run in a game of cricket. But when I come to you, it's like scoring 36 run in 1 over. Because if you will give me order, you will give me an order in bulk. Okay. So his pricing, his service offering to me, his warranty conditions, his installation. See, because one does not just sell a product. So if a generator company is selling to me and I have a potential of buying 10,000 generators over a period of time, then Kirloskar representative was giving me a value proposition, which contained what kind of a product he will sell to me, what will be the warranty period, what will be the payment terms, maybe credit terms, buying against LC, but payment a credit of 6 months, installation, most important, timely delivery of any replacement or spare parts. So their their managing director was focused on all the telecom companies in West Africa, because telecom companies had huge potential to give bulk order for generators, but their strategy or their market offering was different for retail customers. They did not have that much, they did not spend so much time, money, and brainstorming sessions on retail customers, which they spent on us. So once the seller has the knowledge of the processes, the buying orientation of the buyer, they can make an offering which is good for both the sides. The the buyer is able to get something which offers great value to his organization, and the seller is also able to make a profitable relationship. I remember in case of an industrial product, when I used to be selling an industrial product, the buyer told me when he was buying my product, he was not looking for just a product. He said, I am looking for peace of mind. It's very important to understand what is the buyer looking for. He says, I want I want my machinery not to not to get spoiled because I'm using a low grade inferior quality engine oil. I want a superior quality engine oil, and I am buying from you not just your oil, I am buying peace of mind. You must give me a service wherein you assure to me that you will keep a track on my inventory and you will make available the product just in time. The guy said, I don't want to overstock, but I don't want to go out of stock. So you take end-to-end responsibility. When I am dealing with you, I am not dealing with you just for what you are selling. I am investing in peace of mind. I still remember those words. I am investing in peace of mind. Once you have understood what is the positioning of your product in the mind of the buyer, you can make an appropriate strategy. And in the case which I am referring to, I am telling you, he was more, the customer, the buyer was more bothered about ensuring that he had uninterrupted supplies, that we were able to, there is something in oil business which we call condition monitoring test, in which we take the sample of the used oil, we send it to the lab and we check how good or bad the oil still is. So he was willing to pay us a premium, and he was a high volume customer. If we gave him all the services, and none of the services were free services, they may be ostensibly free, but their cost was already incorporated in the selling price of the oil. So this is how the seller, if he has intimate knowledge of the segmentation done by the buyer, he can maximize value for both the sides, for the buying side, for the buying customer, and for the selling organization, which is his own company. There are essentially six ways of segmenting the B2B market. We're coming to the segmentation part of the nuts and bolts of segmentation. And I have taken most of this information from peer-to-peer-marketing.co, the company, and I'm grateful to them. They've explained it very well. So, what are the six ways of segmenting B2B market is? First is you segment as per the key accounts. You know, you segment companies by way of differentiating between key accounts and the accounts which are not so key. Then after that, there is a segmentation called firmographic segmentation. I'll explain it. Then customer tiering is another way of segmentation. There is need-based segmentation. There is segmentation based upon customer sophistication. And finally, there is behavioral segmentation. Once again, key account segmentation, firmographic segmentation, customer tiering, need-based segmentation, segmentation based upon customer sophistication, and behavioral segmentation. I will explain each one of them in greater detail in the subsequent slides. So the first way of segmenting B2B market is by segmenting key accounts, segregating key accounts from normal accounts. And in this, the Pareto principle, which is also called the 80-20 principle, is very important. Uh, in most B2B cases, 20% would amount to only a handful of customers. But these 20% accounts, which are called key accounts, they are responsible for driving 80% of the business revenue. So once again, following the Pareto's principle, there are 20% of your customers. So if your customer size is 100, you can classify 20 of them who will be contributing 80% to your business. In any B2B business, there could be exceptions, of course, but this is what happens in B2B business. I will tell you give you the example of a fuel customers when I was with Indian Oil Corporation. When I was in Jammu and Kashmir, I had three customers which accounted for 80% of my diesel sales: Indian Army and Indian Railways. In fact, there were two. They accounted for more than 95% of my industrial sales. So naturally, you have to spend more time for these key customers. You have to segregate these two customers from the other customers, and you have to tailor make programs, marketing programs for them. No two customers are the same, and each customer should be treated as an individual, ideally. But this is not really possible to give the same amount of time to all customers, whether they are big or small. Ideologically, it will make good sense, but commercially, it makes a very bad sense. So you have to follow the Pareto's principle of 80-20. 20% of your key customers will bring 80% of your revenue. So you can tailor your products according to the needs, or even develop new products specifically for them. Specifically for them. Make sure that you give attention to these crucial key accounts because they are responsible for 80% of your revenue. There is a product which we call DHPP alpha. It was basically kerosene doped with, it was diesel doped with kerosene. Why? Because in Leh Ladakh region, the diesel used to freeze when it was sub-zero temperature. So this was a new product which was developed for the Indian Army so that it did not freeze. So your key customers, they deserve your very special attention. You may be supplying a chemical, but it is possible that that chemical, if you add certain catalyst to the chemical, the efficiency of that chemical increases manifold. I am supplying bitumen to a road contractor. Bitumen is something which is used for road construction. Okay. If in the international markets, newer type of bitumen is there, which has greater ease of usage, then it is my bounden duty to explain that product to him. And if possible, try to market it to him to show the customer that it will have a win-win situation for the seller as well as the buyer. That's why we have bitumen emulsions now. Bitumen emulsions. New product category, entirely new products are developed for key customers only. And it is because of the segmenting of key accounts that large corporates are able to maximize the value for the customer and for their own company. So segmenting key accounts is the first way of segmentation in B2B market. The second way of segmenting the market is firmographic segmentation. Demographics, you remember demographics, we use the word in consumer market. So demographics, it takes the form of firmographics whenever clients, they change from individual to firms. So firmographic segmentation involves segmenting customers based upon some of the shared qualities like business size or company location or the industry they are operating in, their tech adoption rate, so on and so forth. For example, uh, we have heard about MENA region, Middle East and North Africa region. Big companies from they split customers into various geographical locations across the world. So MENA region means Middle East and North Africa region, sometimes APAC, Asia Pacific region. So for example, Indian Oil Corporation, which is a very big company, Fortune 500 company, and the company with highest revenue in India, it splits its customers into into regions: northern region, western region, eastern region, southern region. Even within the same customer, it will split it into four categories. Caterpillar, the American giant in earth moving and construction industry, it has split India into two. North and east is one, south and west is one. McDonald's, for the purpose of appointing of franchisees. So firmographic segmentation. This is fairly useful and it is fairly inexpensive. The cost to collect firmographic data is low, and you don't have to do a lot of research. This firmographic information is widely available in public domain. Additionally, this information is quite simple to understand, and all levels of the management they understand this level of segmentation. But also, you can say let us say you are in the business of IT, and you are providing IT software services. You can divide your clientele into several parts. You can say, okay, banking industry is one segment and non-banking is one segment. If banking is the key industry, if your products are tailor-made for bank, you can divide them into public sector bank, private sector bank, small banks, scheduled banks, or cooperative banks. This is how firmographic segmentation is done. Sometimes it is divided into the business size. You can say, okay, this is how much this industry consumes this product. So that industry will be a separate segment. Between so much consumption to so much consumption will be this segment, and others will be in the third segment. So firmographic variables can be performance, consumption, status, size, location. Location is a very common way, or it could be an industry segmentation. So this is what is firmographic segmentation. The third way of segmentation in business markets or B2B markets is customer tiering. Just like you have tier 1 cities, tier 2 cities, tier 3 towns, so on and so forth. So you customers are also, it's a process of ranking the customers on the basis of importance to your business. Once again, it is ranking the customers on the basis of their importance to your business. The importance could be defined by way of profitability potential, lifetime value, or maybe how well they are aligned to your goals. Okay, tier 1 could be high priority, tier 1 tier 2 could be medium priority, tier 3 could be low priority. Now, customer tiering is similar to key accounts segmentation, which I discussed. Is the first way we said we can segment, but the difference in this type of segmentation is that it covers a lot more than just revenue generation potential. In key accounts we said 80/20. No, here you rank all the companies, and then based upon, you say, okay, from 1 to 10 ranking, this will be the marketing program, from 10 to 15, something like that. Of course, nowadays the tech savvy companies, they use artificial intelligence and machine learning to calculate the potential value that a client will hold, and it creates tiers based upon these technologically advanced methods. So your future potential, your of course, potential is always future, but your future profitability with while you deal with these companies. Okay, it will also guide you to which customers will need more attention. Okay, perhaps the greatest benefit of customer tiering is that you are able to deep dive into every customer, and you are in a position you are able to compare which customer is getting how much of your attention and how much profitability it is bringing on the table. So customer tiering also is a it's an important method of segmentation. Mind you, companies can use one method, companies can also have a mix of more than one methods. Companies like which have large customer base. I know of a printing of a company which supplies printing machinery. It has it follows this method of tier 1 customers, tier 2 customers, and tier 3 customers. So there are a number of visits to these companies are also dependent upon how much whether they are in tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3. Another way of segmentation in B2B marketing is needs based segmentation. Needs based segmentation is a very powerful method of customer segmentation. Actually, need based segmentation, it clusters the different audience group or the target market on the basis of what your customers are looking for in your product. So this could be a certain feature of the product or any other aspect they may pay more attention to while they are purchasing. So needs based, as I gave you the example of generator sets, uh, there may be somebody who's looking to buy generators, diesel run generator sets, as the main source of power. He is a different customer than somebody who is buying your generator for a backup, and he's using the normal electricity board power. This kind of a segmentation is accurate, highly scalable, but you have to do hard work, and I need to make such identifications. You can also normally when the customer comes to you for the first time, at that is the best time when you can understand what is the need of the customer and niche based segmentation. Let's take the example of a client or a customer, large scale enterprise which comes to you to buy your cloud hosting service. So it could be an organization which wants to use your services only for the backing up of important data, and so that they are able to recover them easily in case of their loss. Or it could be subscribing to your cloud hosting service to share files across network. In first case, it already has its own network, it is a shareable network, but it is still doing a cloud hosting because suppose their server crashes. So these two customers are different customers. One example of when the manual washing machine, it's not an example from B2B, but I thought I should share this, the interesting example. uh, when manual washing machine, their market share started to decline, but there were some markets in rural Punjab where they were being bought, and the people who were buying it were not normally family men. So it came to light that big hotels or restaurants or dhabas, they would use washing machine to churn lassi. you know so washing machine to churn lassi in a uh, non-automatic or non-semi-automatic one which just has a washer, does not have a dryer, to produce lassi. They're different. People can have, so this is a B2C example, and this is a different kind of an example, outlier kind of an example. But people may use your product or your services because their needs are different. So also you should, some customers are business perfectionists. There are some customers who are seeking maximum profits. There are some customers who are conservative in technology. There are some customers who are technically idealists kind of a people. So they all have different needs. Another example, I gave you the example of a generator set where somebody may be using a generator set as the main source of power, and somebody may be using it as a uh, additional uh, power source. Software, I gave you the example of cloud hosting. There could be a company which may need the legal services, for example, but it may only want to impanel a, a legal service. It will, some people, because it does not have need to consult a lawyer all the time, but it wants to have impaneled lawyers who maybe they will pay some retainership every month basis, and they will pay them extra if they want to need them for more number of hours. But there may be some companies who may want to have a lawyer because they have lot of legal cases. They have lot of legal documents which they want to be scrutinized by independent expert body. So people may have different kind of segmentation. So this law firm, it will have different set of programs for different organizations. One which uses its services very heavily, one which uses its services sparingly, and one which may not use, but they may just want somebody to be on the panel of their company as a legal, as a provider of legal services. So this is what is meant by needs based segmentation. Yet another method of segmentation is when you base segmentation upon the customer sophistication. So customer sophistication refers to their acumen of the product you are offering or the industry they are operating in. There means the customer. So there are customers sometimes who may require a very basic version of what you are offering, and then there are customers who may require, uh, who may be expert in that area, and they may require a lot more sophistication. Okay, so you need to put these two type of customers in separate groups and make sure that they don't overlap. There may be, if you're supplying laptops, let us say you are supplying laptops to an organization which employs an organization which is into gaming industry, for example, where there are several people and they are working on new gaming products. So they will need a different kind of a computer. They will need different kind of a computer than another company which is a manufacturing company, and they use computers just to carry out day-to-day business, email, making Excel sheets, presentations. If you bombard a sophisticated customer with basic things, it will be very annoying. Okay, if, let us say, you are a broking house, and you have a customer who himself takes most of the decisions of investing in shares, and he's a well respected, not knowledgeable person in the field of investing, but he still consults your company. But if you send somebody who starts to explain to him as to what is meant by the PE ratio, or what is a multi-bagger share, the guy will be, he will feel annoyed. So how sophisticated your customer is, depending upon that, you have to make a market offering. You have to make a market offering. Just like just like in the case of B2C, you can't offer a customer who normally buys a car which is 20 lakh plus. You can't offer him a basic model of a car which is valued at 5 lakh rupees. Similar is the case in the B2B customer. Certain industrial users are very sophisticated. Like in the last when I was explaining the needs based segmentation, I told you there are some customers who are looking for technically most competent solutions. They're very sophisticated customer, and they want to have the best in whatever they do. If you are suppose you are selling a software, or you're selling a service which manages the human resource of a tiny enterprise, of a they may require your services only for attendance, or for working out the salary slips. But some bigger organizations may want you to provide inputs to the staff on how to save on taxes, how to do tax calculation. Maybe they want to have an interactive website between the service provider and the employees, wherein employees can raise questions, and the expert company which is providing HR services can answer them. So this is meant by segmentation based upon customer sophistication. We come to the last kind of a segmentation, which is called the behavioral segmentation. As the name suggests, behavioral segmentation, it looks at the behavior of your customer towards your product or service. There are some customers who need to be pursued more aggressively to get value out of them. So marketeers are able to identify the potential for upselling and increase revenue from individual customer based upon the behavioral segmentation. Some of the things which I would like to add here is that you come to know if the customer is interested in your product, or is he losing his interest by understanding his engagement level. What is the engagement level shows how actively a customer is engaging with your product content. Suppose you send an email, and how often do you get response from the customers? See, it has been proven that if you send an email which is targeted to a particular customer, there has been a MailChimp survey which says that segmented email campaigns, they have around 20% higher open rates than non-segmented campaigns or generic campaigns. So, there is something called more click-through rates. What is meant by click-through rates is, suppose you send a email, how many people will click it open? So, how we should be able to identify customers who are at the risk of leaving us. We should figure out, on the basis of our interaction with the customers, that if they are interested with us or they are getting disinterested over time. Okay, so uh, there may be customers, if you are who may like you, who may like to engage with them more often. There may be customers who may like you to have minimal interaction, because perhaps what you are selling to them is not of critical nature for them. Some customers may like seller to have more direct interaction with people who are in the senior management positions. So this is behavioral, the way the customer behaves and interacts with you. That also can give us some sense of behavioral segmentation. And as I said, I have referred to a website called Peer-to-Peer Marketing for giving this presentation on segmentation. So I would like to place on record my thanks to them. We now come to the interesting aspect of e-commerce and organizational buying. Just like consumers who are buying at Amazon or Flipkart or Myntra, the purchasing manager also, they use internet to find new suppliers, communicate with current suppliers, or place a new order. So why are these why are they embracing online purchasing technologies? Because studies have found out, Tim Minahan, who is who's a supply chain consultant at the Aberdeen Group, he says that they are able to online e-commerce in B2B buying. He says that e-commerce is able to deliver measurable benefits. And what are these benefits? It comes in the form of savings in material cost, process efficiencies, performance enhancement. Three things he says: savings in terms of material cost. Number two, process efficiency. The process of procurement becomes more efficient. And third is performance enhancement. The new things which they are procuring, it is leading to higher performance enhancement. So even a study which was conducted across 60 companies, big companies like American Express, Motorola, Aberdeen, found that e-commerce, it cut the purchasing cycle time by almost 50%. Purchasing cycle time. It reduced the material cost by 14%, and the purchasing department's cost were down 60%. So these are some of the visible improvements which organizations have been able to imbibe by use of e-commerce in organizational buying. So in B2B business, e-commerce will become more and more prominent and important, because it does three things. It leads to material cost savings. It The process efficiencies, they go up, and there is performance enhancement. Like the Aberdeen study has found that it cuts down the purchasing cycle time by almost 50%, and it leads to material cost saving is 14%, and 60% reduction in the cost of the purchasing department, administrative cost of purchasing department. So e-commerce in organizational buying is important and here to stay. Let's now come to the important and interesting concept of reverse auction in e-commerce. Suppose I'm a seller in a B2B business, and I have my clientele is spread over throughout India, and there are several buyers of mine. So I am one seller, and there are many buyers. I approach them through email or by personal visits, or by telephone calls or writing emails or whatever. But in reverse auction, the things are different. If I am in reverse auction, there is one seller. There is rather than just one seller and many buyers, there is one buyer and many sellers together. It's like, suppose I am making a personal call to a client. Normally, what happens when the client is talking to me, he will talk to me in confidence. If my competitor also arrives in the office at the same time, he will ask him to wait. Maybe he'll serve him tea and coffee. He will first deal with me. But what happens if he calls him inside also? Okay, you start to bid now. It will be an embarrassing situation. So this is what happens in reverse auction. Rather than one seller and many buyers, the reverse auction, it involves one buyer who invites bids from several pre-qualified suppliers who face off one another in a very dynamic, real-time and a competitive bidding process. And these are very widely practiced in automobile, electronic, aerospace, pharma industries. So the supporters, they claim that in reverse auction, it can lower the cost of procuring products and services by 20%. Even this is something which used to happen if you were tendering in a tendering process. Sometimes I remember the buyer would call 2-3 suppliers, and he will make a appeal to all of them that this is the price point we want. But it was rare. People used to talk one on one confidentially. But in this case, the competing suppliers are facing each other real time, dynamic, and it's a competitive bidding process. And study says that it reduces the cost of procurement by 20%. But there are critics also who says that this kind of a reverse auction in e-commerce, it inflicts real damage on the beautiful relationship between the supplier and the buyer. And they say that these savings, which they talk about 20% saving, they are hugely overstated. During the recent economic downturn, many firms actually used reverse auction as a tactical weapon to drive the suppliers to lower their prices. However, it is also seen that if they choose one who's giving the lowest price, is often seen to deliver less value, lower quality, and poorer service. So less price does not always, uh, in a competitive reverse auction, it does not mean you will get good service, good quality, and good value. But reverse auctions are suited. When are they best suited? They are suited when commodity type items are to be purchased. If you have to buy diesel, fuel, metal parts, chemical, raw material, standardized raw material. But on the other hand, these reverse auctions are generally not appropriate for strategic relationships, where suppliers they have specialized, where suppliers have specialized capabilities, and very few suppliers can meet quality and performance standards. Uh, I have referred a book by Hutt and Michael D, which is called B2B Marketing, a South Asian Perspective, and it quotes Rob Harlan, who's the senior director of informative IT, information technology for Motorola. He says we pride ourselves on having strong supplier relationships. We are not going to jeopardize these for short-term gains with online auctions. But online auctions are here to stay. A competitive bidding process which is dynamic real time where many suppliers face off one another. So reverse auction is a new reality, and we have to, the supplier who's already entrenched in this system, he faces this threat of getting kicked out at least for one or two deals when it comes to reverse auction, because the supplier who wants to come in, he can lower his price and he can win the bid.